Hi, Donald here with Floating Feathers Kayak Fly Fishing School with another tips and tricks. And this tips and tricks is the top 10 things you need to look for when you're buying or looking to buy a used kayak. So, number one, the big thing you want to look for is any signs of holes or repairs that somebody had made on a hull or existing hull. And that includes the deck and the hull. So make sure you check both the top, the sides, the bottom, everything else. Signs of holes, or obviously you can see holes, really deep scrapes. You can take a flashlight with you, shine through there, and you can see if the light is different on thinner parts of the kayak, if you will, if there's been a repair, or if there's a really thin part of the kayak, if you're concerned on the bottom especially, where a lot of deep gouges can happen. Number two is make sure, is all of the original equipment that came on that kayak originally included in the sale? Things like seats, hatches, things like that. Sometimes as people modify kayaks, they lose some of the original equipment, and that can kind of help negotiate the price for you if you're wanting more of an original kayak. So make sure all the original equipment is there and installed correctly. Number three, kayak anglers tend to modify kayaks, so check all the modifications done to that kayak and make sure that they're done well. Make sure that they're secure. Make sure they're in the right place. Make sure that, if you're sitting in it, that any modification that's permanently mounted isn't going to interfere with you paddling. Because if it does, then you may have to remove that modification, and you want to make sure that you can remove that modification without causing any damage to the kayak. Number four, check all the hardware. Make sure the hardware is tight. Take a screwdriver, a few wrenches, things like that. Make sure all the hardware. Check the hardware on the mighty mounts or the pad eyes, the handles. Check all that hardware, right? Make sure it's all tight. Make sure it's all secured, right? If there's rivets missing or something like that, then may be able to help negotiate the price for you. It may be a deal breaker. It depends on the hardware and where it is and what it's holding on to or what it's securing to the kayak. Number five, is all the equipment on the kayak in working order? Things like bungees. Are they in good shape? They're not dry rotted. They're still bungee-ish. They've still got a nice snap to them. Are the handles in good condition? If it's got a pull handle on the front, is it still in good working order? Do all the pedals work? If you're buying a pedal kayak, do the pedals work? Does the rudder work? Do the foot pegs still move? Are they all attached? Seat straps, are they in good condition? Anything that it's supposed to be on that kayak or is on that kayak, make sure it works. And if it doesn't, then again, negotiations. Number six, check to make sure that the kayak either has a serial number and or a manufacturer's certificate of origin. Some states require you to register your kayak now, regardless of whether you put a motor on it, and most states require you to register your kayak if you choose to put a motor on it. So you're going to need the serial number, and hopefully you can find that certificate, that manufacturer's certificate of origin. If you can't find the certificate of origin, you may be able to use the serial number on that kayak to contact the manufacturer and get your COO. So you need one of those two or both, preferably, when you're looking at a used kayak. Number seven. Look all over the kayak. Look on the top. Look in the hatches. Look in the back. Look in any accesses, the bottom, the sides, the hull, everything. See if there's any signs of mold or mildew. Animals been chewing on it. Nests, things like that. Mold and mildew means it's just been outside a lot longer. And it may have some issues with water on the inside, especially if there's mold or mildew on the inside of the kayak. And I don't mean on the deck, I mean inside the hull. So when you take a deck plate or something off, check that. Make sure there's no mold or mildew in there, because if there is, moisture's getting in there and can't get out, and that can cause you issues, especially when on the water. Number eight, does it come with any extras? Does it come with a PFD, a paddle, a motor, any type of accessories or gear? That can help negotiate prices as well, usually in the seller's favor, but sometimes in yours as well. Because PFD may not fit you, right? The paddle may be too short, may be too long, it doesn't work for you, so you can negotiate prices there. Number nine, check past reviews of that particular kayak for that year and that model, not just a kayak of the same model, but make sure you get that same year, because some manufacturers change a little bit from year to year, or they go from 5 years or something like that, and they'll make some changes. So make sure that when you look at YouTube, look at just Google it, right, for that year and model of the kayak that you're looking to purchase, and see what the past reviews say about that kayak and that year. You might be surprised. You may be surprised in a good way. You may be surprised in a bad way. Number 10. Review the profile of the seller if you can, if it's on Facebook Marketplace or things like that. If you can access their profile, or ask the seller for pictures of them in the kayak. And the reason you want to do that is because you can really learn a lot about how a person treats their kayak when you see them in their kayak. Do they have a lot of stuff just piled on it? Do they have trash in the back? Do they have just a lot of mods on it that are no longer on the kayak now? You can use that to ask that seller questions. What happened to this? Why did you take this off? Did you seal it properly when you took it off? Those kind of questions. So you can learn a lot about the kayak itself from pictures of the person selling the kayak when it's being used. All right, so that is your top 10. So I'm going to go over them real quick, nice and fast, real simple. Number 1, check for holes and repairs, top and bottom. Number 2, is all the original equipment included? Number 3, are there any modifications done, and if so, are they done well and correctly? Number 4, is the hardware that is on the kayak tight? And that hardware means, handles everything, right? Number 5, is all the equipment in working order? Check everything. Number 6, make sure it has a serial number and or the manufacturer's certificate of origin. Number 7, check inside the hull and everywhere else. Make sure there's no signs of mildew or mold or anything like that. Number 8, are there any extras included? And are those extras your size? Are you going to be able to use those extras? Number 9, check the past reviews of that particular year, make, and model of that kayak. And number 10, review the profile, ask for pictures to make sure that there's nothing that was once on that kayak that is no longer on that kayak, and hopefully the seller can answer those questions. So that is it. Nice top 10 tips for buying or looking at buying a used kayak. Again, this is Donald with Floating Feathers Kayak Fly Fishing School with another tips and tricks, and tune in every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Central right here on the channel for more tips and tricks on kayaking, fly fishing, and kayak fly fishing. Until then, tight lines and safe paddles.